The only way we can reverse the tide is if we immediately reduce the number of people each of us come into contact with. If you live in a region that is experiencing a surge in cases, stay home if you can and avoid all non-essential travel. We need to step up now, all of us.
Here's what could happen if we don't make changes. According to new federal modeling, if we keep doing what we're doing, Canada could hit 20,000 cases a day by the end of the year. If we increase our social interactions, that number could skyrocket to 60,000 cases a day. If we reduce our contacts to essential activities only, Canada can get the second wave under control. Global's David Akin has more on the Prime Minister's message and what's at stake as Canada heads into winter.
I don't want to be here this morning. You don't want me to be here this morning. But here we are again. The cases across the country are spiking massively.
The Prime Minister back in front of his home to make the point that Canadians should stay home when they can and take other measures to crush the COVID-19 curve.
I am today using my voice and my position as Prime Minister to talk to all Canadians, to tell them that we're in a serious situation where they need to listen to their premiers, they need to listen to their public health experts on what they can do in their jurisdictions to do more.
The reason? A grim forecast on the eve of winter. Continuing on the current course means 20,000 new cases a day by year end versus the current rate of 5,000 new cases a day.
But absolutely do not go above what we have now. Otherwise, we are in really in trouble.
Already, critical care beds are at or near capacity in some parts of the country. And the disease is now picking up in Indigenous communities and in Nunavut, where health resources are scarce and options to isolate are few. And yet, Trudeau said the tough decisions about more lockdowns and more restrictions must be left to the provinces, not Ottawa.
Provinces have lots of tools at their disposal, and I'm not looking to bring in a federal hammer.
Still, critics say that has led to confused and mixed messaging. Masks are mandatory in one region, but not another. Gatherings allowed here, but not there.
It's unfair and it's frustrating. Yep, there's no question about it. But we're not in a fair situation.
And it will be like this for weeks.
A normal Christmas is, quite frankly, right out of the question.
The goal now? Keep as many Canadians as safe and healthy as possible until the first vaccines arrive. David Akin, Global News, Ottawa.
Here's a look at the situation in Canada today in terms of new infections. There were 17 new cases reported in the Atlantic bubble and 10 new cases in Nunavut. BC has 516 new cases. Alberta broke another record with 1,155 cases. Across the prairies, infections remain worryingly high. There were more than 1,200 new cases in Quebec and 1,400 in Ontario. Tough new restrictions are coming into force in parts of Ontario. Toronto and Peel region, two of the hardest hit, are headed back into lockdown.
My friends, I've been clear on this. The situation is extremely serious, and further action is required to avoid the worst-case scenario.
Schools will remain open, but starting Monday, most non-essential businesses will close. There will be no indoor dining, and people cannot socialize indoors with anyone outside their household. Mike Drolet has more on the new restrictions and the reaction.
For the past week, Premier Doug Ford has warned Ontarians they were staring down the barrel of another lockdown. Today, on his birthday, he pulled the trigger.
Effective Monday, November 23rd at 12:01 a.m., Toronto and Peel will be moved into lockdown.
The rules are strict. No indoor private gatherings and religious ceremonies will have limits of 10 people. Non-essential retail and restaurants will be open for pickup and delivery only. But gyms, casinos, and theaters will all be closed, which is devastating news for the business community.
The business is already in an incredibly weakened position. How many more days those businesses can stay alive is anyone's guess. But we're predicting an absolute bloodbath in the days ahead, with 1 in 7 small firms permanently closing their doors forever. I'm deeply worried, and any additional business restriction is going to hurt hard.
Manufacturing and construction will stay open, as will schools, but Ford says there was no longer any room for half measures. Ford's announcement came just a few hours after the Toronto Raptors delivered their own bad news. With the federal government blocking all attempts to play in Canada, the decision was made for the team to relocate to Tampa for the upcoming season. There was just no way of ignoring the surging wave of COVID-19 cases.
I'm really hoping in this crisis at this point that people are actually listening.
Over the past 2 weeks, Ontario's 7-day average for new cases has risen 29%. But in that same period of time, the number of hospitalizations has increased 36%. And most concerning, COVID cases in ICUs have risen 65%, which is nearing the threshold for what the healthcare system can handle without emergency measures.
Frankly, it didn't need to come to this. If Doug Ford had not dithered, if he had not introduced a series of half measures throughout the fall and had been decisive earlier in this pandemic, we would not be, I don't think, in the shape that we're in right now.
If the numbers go down, the hope is the holidays won't be a total loss, but for now, they're looking awfully quiet. Mike Drolet, Global News, Toronto.